Welcome to the aircraft. My name's Todd. I'll be your captain today. We are taking Buster to Enterprise, Alabama. Heading out today, about a 2-hour trip. Head out pretty straight east. Traverse 239 nautical miles. Hopefully in about 2 hours. See what our tailwinds are like. We're going to have a longer trip coming back, about 2.5 hours coming back. 4 flights as we're entering runway 12, 5,400 feet remaining. Around here to one two on the runway, 12 on the DG, 12 on the compass. All right, this is locked. Mixture's full rich. Fuel pump is on. Feet on the floor, and we can start going. We've got airspeed alive. Gauges are green. We have got 55, and we can rotate. And we're airborne. Pitch for 70. Raymond traffic 4447 Echoes up off runway 12, heading out to the east. Last call, Raymond. Jackson approach, Tomahawk 4447 Echo, VFR request.
Tomahawk 4447 Echo, Jackson approach and request.
4447 Echo would like to get flight following to Echo, Delta, November. We are a type Papa Alpha 38, and we're going to go at 5,500, 47 Echo.
I just want to verify, is Echo Delta November?
Yeah, Enterprise, Alabama.
Number 4447 Echo, squawk 5620.
5620 for 47 Echo.
And Tomahawk 47 Echo, your radar contact 3 miles east of the Raymond Airport. Altimeter is 3009er. Maintain VFR, proceed on course.
09er, maintain VFR, proceed on course, 47 Echo.
Exchange approved, Enterprise 12 o'clock and 10 miles.
All right, 2-3 on the runway. 2-3 coming around on the DG. We got a bit of a crosswind. Not too much wind. 2-3 on the compass. Put our feet on the floor. Go full power. Airspeed's alive. Gauge is green. Fuel's on the right tank. 55 and rotate. That's clouds in here now. And Enterprise traffic, 47 Echoes, a right turn out to the west, Enterprise. We have about 40 minutes since we turned on the engines of KEDN Enterprise. We've got about 2 hours and 15 minutes to go, 200 nautical miles, 199 nautical miles. And that's 198. That's what that looks like. All right, look at this beautiful radio stack. That's what I did this week. Went down and got this refurbished KX-155 with a glide slope. That's its glide slope right there. And it's my same radio. It's the same radio that was in this airplane when I bought it. But it went down. The numbers go bad on these old KX-155s.
88 group requested, and then when you're able, you can proceed direct to Keith.
And so this has actually been updated here. So it's now the new LED technology, I guess, instead of LCD. One or the other. You know how it works. Very cool. 87
Charlie Jackson, roger.
87 knots over the ground. We were doing 110 on the way there. So you everything that comes around goes around, or something like that. The 91.
217 Charlie, fly heading 130, vectors around the heavy extreme free step. I'll take you along the coastline.
Holes over there. I'd like it to
130, 130 on the heading 7 Romeo Charlie.
I'd like it to lift a little more if we could. Let's talk about how much it has cost me to run this aircraft for the last year. And we're going to talk about two different levels of costs. It's been about...
Yes, I got you.
Been almost exactly, well, a little over a year. This is, what is it, August 3rd, something like that? August 2nd. So today is August 2nd. I bought this plane, I believe, July...
0, contact Jacksonville Center on 120.2.
27th, something like that, last year. So I've had it almost exactly a year. I looked at the logbook before we took off on this trip. This trip will be about probably 6 hours on the Hobbs, but before this trip...
7270, Quebec, contact Montgomery approach on 124.0.
Before this trip, I had put 84 hours on the TAC and 104.6 hours on the Hobbs. It's amazing how much different the Hobbs can be. So, assuming I did the math right. Looks about right. And it's the Hobbs that we're going to look at because it's the Hobbs that I would have paid for a club aircraft or for a rental aircraft. So we're comparing the two things. What would it cost to own this plane versus what does it cost to rent, right? So, and I'll put some math up here on the screen, try to make this look kind of interesting while we bump along here over Alabama. All right, so first things first, maintenance. What have we had to do in maintenance on this plane? We repaired the nav light wire and did an oil change in October of 2023. That cost $316.75. We did an annual in February. That cost $5,981.92. That was more than I had hoped it was going to be. But it was interesting. It was an interesting annual. So breaking it down, it cost, they charged $1,760 just for the base annual, right? And then they needed to do some logbook research, look up ADs and everything because they'd never had annual with this aircraft before. Well, won't get that charge again next year. We knew that the brakes needed work. The brakes were losing a little bit of fluid and they were a little mushy, so they did that work, brake linings, master cylinder resets, reseals, tappet clearance stuff. I don't know what that meant. I guess something to do with the tappets in the engine. Control surface tension, 500-hour NLG reseal. So I think some of those things were ADs that were getting done. And then the labor that went with that, and then all of the parts. And one thing that was kind of a big deal with the parts was that...
Spirit 172 Atlanta Center, climb, maintain flight level 220.
We did decide to redo a fair bit of the exhaust and the muffler on this aircraft. And that cost a little money, and it took a little time, but I think it's a nice thing to have on it. It's a nice thing to, you know, if we're selling in the future, to advertise that we've gone through and put new exhaust on it. It has all new plugs on the engine. So, you know, what I call kind of an open checkbook annual. It wasn't horrible. The engine is in good shape. It shows good compressions. It doesn't burn a lot of oil. But, you know, all these things that you want to get done. So that was 5981.92. And then in May of 2024, we was having trouble with the anti-collision lights. And so we redid the wiring on those as well. So did that and then had a oil pressure relief work because the gauge was showing oil pressure high, which according to the A&P really isn't that big of a problem. That what you don't want is low oil pressure because it means you don't have oil running through the system. But high oil pressure, there's barely a part of the gauge there that's too high. But we looked at it, cleaned things out, just made sure that all that was running.
71 at Atlanta Center, roger, climb, maintain, flight level 220, block, flight level 230.
So that May repair bill was $1249.81. All right. So what that means is that total and maintenance for the year on this airplane has been $76,23.48. $76,023.48. Then, if I add in the fuel,
Spoken 72,
and the fuel, what I did is basically look at the number of hours flown. I multiplied that by 6 gallons per hour, which this plane actually does better than that. Then multiply that by $5.50 for the fuel. Our fuel on the field is $5. It's a $4.95, I think. And I usually look for airports that are going to be in that same range, $5, $5.50. Fuel cost $3,300. I do feel like yeah, that's a decent average. My tie down is $15 a month.
And let's see, I see you now. You're ready to contact about.
So that's $180. Insurance, I looked that up. Last year it was $1,266.
And that's about to Birmingham.
I actually think it went down this year. I don't remember exactly how much, but basically $100 a month. So adding all of that up, and for some reason I printed this out. Okay, that comes out to $118.25 per hour. So how does that compare to renting or to the club? Now, I'm still a member of our club up in Madison, Mississippi. That club right now has one aircraft, a 182. To fly that 182 is $150 an hour wet. So at $150, that would have cost $15,900. So I got that math right. Plus $3,000.
Give me your cost on again.
So $18,900 to be in the club and fly 100 hours. If I wanted to rent a Cessna 172 from my field, from the flight school, where I got my
Lima, Atlanta Center.
Private. In that case, it would be, I think, $165 an hour. I'm just going to call it that. It may be a little more, but I could buy blocks at like 10 hours.
335 for Lima, say your position.
And I think they'd give me a deal like that. They have two 172s, and the lesser of them, I might even be able to buy a block of that for about $155. So, and in that case, if I didn't have the club, I wouldn't have to pay club dues. You just would be paying that. So call it $17,500 for the entire year.
3 Papa Foxtrot, ready to contact 8 miles northeast of the
versus 12.3.
5,500 maintain VFR. Say your destination and type.
All right, so That's operating cost. And having gone through that, I'm pleased with that. I had hoped that it would cost even less than that I could book it at, $85 an hour to fly this plane, 100 hours a year. Would have been nice.
The altimeter is 3004.
There are certainly two things about that compared to that 182 we have in a club, is this plane goes about 100 knots, true, 105, something like that. And that plane goes 130 knots true, and it's got an autopilot, which I would love. In fact, the one reason I think about letting go of this plane right now is that there is no autopilot that is STC'd or certified for this aircraft.
47 Echo, the high only counter is mobile as of now to your 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock at about 20 miles, just surfacing up.
Okay, I can stay out of the mode, 47 Echo.
This Lima Juliet, contact Houston Center 127.65.
So we have talked about what it costs on kind of an hourly basis. And by the way, once I get through this flight, knock on wood that nothing's wrong with the plane, I would end up, having put another 5 hours, probably maybe even 6 hours on, and divide that out even more, and the only difference in cost would be the fuel. So when you have a lucky streak or two and you don't have a lot of maintenance that you have to worry about, then owning your own plane doesn't scale up like that. And I have, now that I do still have the club membership, and it would be fun.
Mike Whiskey, contact Houston Center 127.65.
It would be fun and nice to fly that 182 every once in a while, but an 8-hour trip in that plane costs $1,200. What else have I spent on the plane? So I installed this GPS 175, which I love. It is fabulous and phenomenal to have this GPS in this airplane. It cost, now a couple other things happened, but ultimately it cost $9,500
Atlanta Center, out of here.
To buy this
Atlanta
GPS,
Center 12045.
buy this K109, get them installed, move the stack around, and get an avionics switch installed. I also had to replace this transponder, and I replaced it with a slide-in, same model, so that I didn't have to do a lot of work on that or change much out. And it was pretty inexpensive. It was $670 compared to a newer transponder. We already had ADS-B. I looked at the idea of going to something more modern and exciting, but it does what it needs to. All right, then there was the mistake. I bought, when this radio, as I mentioned before, this is the original radio that was here when I bought the plane. When it started to wig out, I went on eBay and bought a plane that did have a form, I can't remember what it's called right now, but the form that releases it saying that it's in good working order, and got it installed in this plane, and it worked for about a month, I don't know, before it started to have some problems with the screen, and then eventually just crapped out completely. And it's possible that that was happening because we didn't have an avionics fan in here, that the stack is a little tight now to fit everything in there. It's possible that there was a little bit of error on a number of people's parts that made that happen. It's also possible that the radio was, for whatever reason, ready to go bad. It got shipped poorly. They didn't really test it as well out of this, eBay avionics shop or whatever. But so the upshot was I spent $1,467 on that, which was cheap for a KX-155 that has a glide slope, right? If they're working and they come yellow tagged, they're often $2,200. So I saw that deal and I said, well, this is such a great deal that I can't pass it by. And then look what happened. It wasn't working, a month later. So what I did then is I took the old KX-155, shipped it off to this company that does refreshes. That refresh cost $2,299, $2,300, and probably some shipping in there that I didn't get right. But it came back with this new screen. The guy sent me a video. I'll drop it, maybe the video into this and show it to you. But video of him testing everything and, you know, just doing a killer job of making all that stuff work. So I was pretty pleased with the way that ultimately went, what he was able to do for it. But it did mean an expense. So I have spent, you know, $3,700 trying to get this radio right. And then this week, I went back down to the avionics shop in Mobile and had them install that, and then had them put in an avionics fan that's back behind here now, cooling these units down, and hopefully it's working. The funny thing is...
447 Echo, contact Houston Center on 127.65.
127.65 for 47 Echo. You have a good day. Houston Center, 4447 Echo is level 3000.
November 4447 Echo, Houston Center, Hattiesburg, altimeter 3012.
3012, 47 Echo. It's interesting, I stayed south of this MOA this time, instead of going through it like I did this morning. I got with Houston. And I think through the MOA I stayed with Atlanta. So getting all kinds of Cairns approach, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Houston so far. We'll get over to Memphis and then up into Jackson. All right, so let's see if we can total this stuff out. Overall, everything radio-wise that I have fixed, that I have installed, that I have added in the last year cost $15,331. And doesn't quite look like it. I mean, it does. You know, it's nice. Here's another interesting lesson, I think. I'm forced to wonder what would have happened if I'd gone to the avionics shop and said, I'll spend $15,000 to improve the panel. What could I have gotten for that at one time, done right, without kind of going piecemeal? Good purchase, been a year. I think the hourly rate speaks for itself. I think the avionics rate hopefully makes some sense down the road. I'm happy about having spent the money. I'm curious what life would be like if I had walked into an avionics shop and if I'd had $15,000 to pay all at once. What would have happened? Maybe a G5 or AB30 or something could have come along with this radio and fix things up. But you never know. So that's the story. Turn off the cameras here, and then we'll get back up when we're with Jackson Approach and going into Raymond.